Now the Apostle Paul says something very shocking in 1 Corinthians 7:12. Now he says, "But to the rest speak I, not the Lord." Now that sounds like the Apostle Paul is actually making up stuff. But is that really the case? Now this is very important for you to understand as a child of God. Is that in 1 Corinthians 7:10 is talking about a marriage between a believer and a believer. Now in 1 Corinthians 7:12 is talking about a believer and an unbeliever. There's one thing that applies to both scenarios, and that is God does not allow divorce. So the question is, where did divorce come from? If you go to Deuteronomy 24, reading from verse 1, Moses, the prophet of God, gives an instruction for the sake of decency, so that to protect the woman from being used wrongly. So when you are keeping her off, there has to be a writing that you are actually keeping her off, or you are keeping her away. And then you cannot remarry her once she's gone and is married to another man. Now, here we see that Moses is giving an allowance. God's perfect will is that a man and a woman should come together and live forever until death do them part. But then there is usually a human weakness which is called sin. And that is why Jesus in Matthew 19 addresses the same by saying that Moses allowed you to divorce your wives because of the hardness of your heart. So that means Moses gave an allowance. So can we then therefore say that Moses was making up stuff? Then it can't be true, because Moses gives the criteria of the allowance is that this is there because to bring decency. This is in accordance with the commandments of God. So we can therefore conclude that Moses gave an allowance. He did not make up stuff. So here we come to the Apostle Paul. Now the Apostle Paul is giving a scenario where the unbeliever has abandoned the believer. So just as Moses is doing, the Apostle Paul is protecting the believer. Moses is protecting the woman. But in the case of Apostle Paul, he is protecting the believer from being abandoned by the unbeliever. So that means divorce is allowed in that circumstance. It is not encouraged, it is allowed. Basically, it's called permissive will. It is not the perfect will, but it is permissive will. So here we can see clearly that the Apostle Paul is following the tradition of the prophets, specifically the prophet Moses. So Moses was not making up stuff. He was standing in his office as a prophet to bring direction, to bring order even amongst the people of God. So the Apostle Paul also standing in his office as an apostle, using his intelligence or using his wisdom concerning the word of God. So we can see that he agrees with Jesus in Matthew 19 that divorce is not allowed. So we can therefore say that the Apostle Paul is not creating stuff in his mind. So the next time you hear that objection that the Apostle Paul in 1 Corinthians 7:12 is making up stuff by saying, yet not, it is I, not the Lord, that does not mean that he is creating up stuff. Instead, it means that Jesus Christ did not explicitly address the issue that I'm going to address. So shalom and God bless you.